unless it's an actual sex ed class that the kids are, are taking, but I don't think it needs to be anything else. I mean, that should be left to the parents.
I have another question. When you say the clearing or clapping, cheering, snapping is not allowed, the board, I'm probably missing a few things in there. But I've seen, especially you two, I don't know if any of the other board members have, but I know you specifically, you two, have encouraged people to clap and acknowledge people that you've brought up, and you've encouraged that. So why is it that you're encouraging other people to cheer and clap and snap or whatever, and you're not for other people? It seems to me like that's pretty hypocritical of both of you, that you allow it for one group of people in one group and in one instance, but you will not allow it to the point of you're asked to leave.
So Brian, help me to understand. Do you think we've done that during public participation? Because that statement that you're talking
You
about
did it
is
last night.
read for public participation. Do you think we do it during public participation?
I've seen it in the past, yes. When I've seen it multiple times in the past where
When
people,
someone's speaking at the podium for
Yes,
public participation?
when public participation, especially when we were doing all the book thing and all the Republican ladies were up there and they were saying their little spot, and people afterwards would clap and cheer and yes, and you shut them down and threatened them with, you're going to be out of here if you continue to clap and applaud after they're done. But you've both brought up people that are well deserved of the applause and stuff. I totally agree. There's a lot of things. What was that one that they brought up? You said you really liked. I can't think of it.
CTE?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's not public participation.
No, I'm not talking
So
about that. I'm talking about applause. It's
The
the
applause
same thing.
statement applies to public participation,
But why is
not
it?
to the entire board meeting.
But again, why is that okay for one part and
Well-
part of some people, but not for others? It's applause.
Well, but that applies to public participation only, Brian,
I agree.
and I will really monitor myself on that.
I-
But it's not the same thing, and the purpose
Why?
is so that public presenters can come up without feeling like they have to please an audience and seek applause. That is exactly why. I mean,
Because
it's
why?
Or that they feel intimidated
Yeah.
by someone else.
Because someone doesn't applaud
Yeah.
them?
or someone applauds somebody else. Our intent is to not have a person should be able to come to the podium, speak their mind, share what they need to share
Sure.
without audience reaction. And that's, I mean,
But what if that's
but-
okay with them?
well,
Just like it's okay
Yeah.
for the people that you bring up to say,
Yeah.
hey, I enjoyed that because I knew those people liked what I said or liked what I did. So why is it so different from somebody, whether it's people that you brought up or public comment?
well, they're different.
Why?
They're
Why?
different.
What's the difference?
The difference is that our public has a right to come in and have a standard of what's gonna happen when they're there in the room. When we are recognizing someone, there's no statement read to not applaud someone who's being recognized.
But again, it's a First Amendment right to applaud. And you're squashing that. But then you're giving it to another group of people.
It's not another group of people. It's a
It
different. It's a different part of the meeting, right?
But it's a different group. Correct.
There are places where applause is appropriate in the meeting.
Why isn't it
Places,
appropriate at the public comment?
Because again, that can oftentimes lead to disruption. And so when somebody comes to the
So how
podium,
do you classify disruption?
well, I mean, we've seen some
Isn't it a
disruption in our boardroom.
Isn't applause whether it's applied to someone of a different race, creed, color, or opinion than another person? Isn't
We're
it?
not talking about two different groups.
Yeah, we
Right?
are.
We're talking about two different parts of the meeting. So
No,
anybody,
they're two different groups, though. There may be two. I agree. It's two different parts of the meeting. I agree with you.
I mean, you
But
could
it's
be
two
part of
different
one
people.
meeting, part of the meeting, and be applauded, and be at a different part of the meeting and not be applauded, right?
Sure.
So, I mean, it's
could
not
if
a different
that's-
group.
If
It's a
that was
different
their
part of the
intent.
meeting.
If I didn't get any applause, I wouldn't be, well. But it's people's right to applaud or not, and you're squashing that, regardless of whether it's a different part of the meeting or two different groups of people. It's still, you're being hypocritical and you're not being fair to everybody. You're not giving,
No, the
you guys
intent
are
is
all
to be fair
about,
to everybody, so
you
people aren't
guys,
applauding.
you guys
I mean-
are about all equality and stuff, so why aren't we equally distributing the
So-
applause? I don't get it.
So Brian, I understand what your frustration is, that when people, I mean, we've had controversy in our boardroom, and there were times that it became more disruptive than any of us would have liked.
Disruptive
right?
to who?
Well, to the boardroom, to people in the boardroom. And,
To
but
the ability to carry
not
out
the
public
meeting,
business.
to have the meeting.
I think
But
it just
despite
depends
that-
on whether you approve of it or not.
May I finish?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. I don't want a venue where, I'll be honest, no board member does. Let's take Mrs. Martin's letter
Mhm.
to the board, and she comes to the podium and reads that letter,
Mhm.
and it names one of our board members.
Sure.
I don't want people in the audience applauding that. I
Why?
don't want that disruption, I don't
It's
want
freedom of
that
speech.
pain, I don't want that hurt. It's not necessary.
But you
People
guys,
should be able to come and say what they need to say
Mhm.
without having a cheering squad behind them. They should,
it's
or
an
not.
applause.
Well, we're gonna have to agree to disagree on this one too. I mean, we are, because clearly, we think the statement that's read is appropriate for a formal school board meeting, and you don't like it, and you disagree with it, and that's okay.
I
You can
want
disagree.
I want that equal treatment for everybody, not just one group.
It is for everybody.
It's not
at
because
public
you're squashing it for one
participation.
other group.
No, it is at public participation. We didn't let people
You can
applaud.
classify it any way you
No.
want, but it's still, you're being,
I want you to watch. You watch
I
the
do.
public participation.
I watch it every week, every
We-
time you're
We don't
in
allow
session.
disruption during public participation for anyone. For anyone.
You don't what? Say that again?
Allow disruption by the audience.
Define
during-
disruption.
During public participation.
Define
Something,
disruption.
something that interferes with their time while they're speaking.
But they
whatever
don't
that
clap
might
and
be.
cheer and snap while they're talking. They wait till the end.
No,
So how is
sometimes they
that
did.
how's that
Oh,
classified
sometimes
as
they,
disruption?
we've seen them clap and cheer before the
Right.
speaking
And I've
was
seen
over.
it when you guys have parading your people up there too. So what's the difference?
That's a celebration. It's not public
But they're
participation.
celebrating
It's a different part
too.
of the-
It doesn't
part
make
of the
any
meeting.
difference.
Well, I mean, that,
We'll
we're not
have to
getting,
agree to disagree.
we're not gonna resolve this one.
Yeah, I totally
And, but I
agree.
will
Yeah.
tell you, during public participation, I will very much self-monitor that. None of us should be clapping during public participation. None of us.
And
I
don't
never
think you ever
said you
seen that.
were. I never said you were.
Okay.
I said when public participation, I didn't say you guys, I said the people in the boardroom.
Well, you said we've let it at the beginning of this.
You've let the people applaud and clap after the people you've brought in. You allow that.
For a recognition.
Sure, why not? I agree with you.
But I'm just saying it's a different part of the meeting. It's not a different group of people.
It is a different group because the same people that are doing your thing aren't doing the participation. So it
There
is
are
a group
people
of
that
different-
disagree with you, Brian, and
There are
in
people who
public
disagree with you, too.
participation, and if somebody were clapping and cheering for them, we would stop that too, right?
For what? What do you mean? Say that again.
I'm just saying there might be someone who disagrees with you in public participation.
Sure.
And if the audience was clapping and snapping and cheering for them, we would
We
stop
stop
that
them as
too.
well.
So it's not a different group of people, it's a different part of the meeting.
But you're allowing it, is what I'm saying. For one group and not the other. For one person and not the other.
We do not allow clapping and cheering and snapping during public participation.
I didn't say that. You're not listening.
Just as we don't
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
You're
just
not
as we
listening.
don't
I never
take-
said that, and I agree with you. This is the third time I said I agree with you.
I know.
Okay, but I'm saying you allow it on the other side of your guys'.
You'd like to
people
see
group.
no clapping at all in the entire meeting.
No, I'm
Is what
not
you're
saying that at all.
If,
I'd like to
if
see
it's not
it.
allowed in public participation, then you don't want it
If-
allowed anywhere. Is that what you're saying?
I want equality. Okay, you guys preach about equality 24/7 in the 2030. So and equity, but equality is equal treatment for everybody. That doesn't mean one group of people or not. It's equality. See what I'm saying? Equality?
And during public participation, during that
It's
part of
not
the meeting,
equal.
they're all treated the
You,
same.
you can sit over there and
Yeah.
laugh and sneer at me,
I'm not.
but
I'm
it's
sneering,
just
Mr.
derogatory, you know? It doesn't make you come out any better.
Oh, okay. I'm not doing that to be derogatory, Mr. Sullivan.
You're doing it to be insulting, is
I'm
what
not
you're
doing
doing.
it to be insulting.
Then what are you doing it for?
We keep having the same conversation, making the same point
Right.
over and over again, and
And so
I'm
do I.
laughing at. Okay, this is not fruitful, right?
You're right.
We're just going to have to agree to disagree
Yeah,
on this point.
I thought so. Another thing I would like to bring up, I can't remember when it was, I'm sure you will know, but little Brenda Campos Spitzy, she asked my wife if she noticed when the people that were hired, I believe it was over here at the other school, she when you guys brought up all the new hires over there, which is great, they deserved a huge round of applause. Then she turned to my wife and asked if she noticed if they were all white.
I don't know that one, yes.
Hmm?
Yeah, I did forget about that.
Yeah, and Taylor says, no, she was told to trust the process, and the best candidate was hired. And she turned around and said, well, I bet you would notice if they were all, what, black or Mexican or something?
Yes.
That's pretty shitty from a,
I don't pay attention to people's skin
No.
color. I pay attention to what they are bringing to the table, what's in here, not what's out here. And so, yeah, she did bring that up, but that was after a comment he made about, when he was asking about if you guys, were releasing people so that you could, bring up the hiring rate of the Hispanics. That was when he was in question of it.
Yeah.
And after that meeting, after you guys went through it, and everybody that was your new hires stood up, and we all clapped and everything, she looked at me and asked me, she goes, did you notice their skin color? And I'm like, what? She goes, did you pay attention? And I said, no. I said, I don't look at that. And, you know, she says, if they were all black, you would have said something. And I was like, oh, no, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't, because I trust the process, like what he just said, that we're gonna hire the best of the best, that we aren't gonna focus on the color of somebody's skin, or if they're male, or if they're female. You're going to go off of what their accolades are, what they're bringing to the table, what they're gonna contribute back to their community. And that's what I told her, and then I walked away.
Okay.
I would think you would address that with another board member, because it's bringing out racial tensions. And with someone like Brenda Campos Spitzy that holds that in high regard, I wouldn't think she would be below that to say something so derogatory and hateful towards another board member. I mean, unless you guys condone that. I mean, do you condone that or not?
Well, this is the first I've heard about
Yeah.
this.
Well, yeah, I agree.
So I mean, and so we would need to check.
I didn't address it that night, and I have no problem talking to her one-on-one. I didn't know you were bringing that one to the table. I kind of forgot about that, but I have no problem talking to her one-on-one.
Well, you
But
have
if I
shared
would
in-
have said something to her that night, it would have, I'm
Yeah.
sure it would have
Well,
just went
and
awry.
Taylor, you've shared in work session that you have a problem with that part of our strategic plan.
I've been open about that, but
Yeah.
but it's because I don't think that's should be the focus. I guess to me the focus is you bring the best of the best. What are their accolades? What are they bringing to the table? How are they contributing to the community? Are they into teaching are they doing it for the kids? Are they here for the right reasons? It has nothing to do what your racial background is. Are you male or female? What your sexuality is, and you know that to me is. It's off. It's a little off kilter, but you know, I met with Annette and she reassured me that wasn't happening. But then, you know, I did get that comment, so it was like, oh. So you know, I still am hearing some of that it just doesn't settle right with me, I guess, because I'm not a racist. I have people of all colors and all races, and I have friends who are gay and friends who are straight. I mean, I have a mix of everything, and you put everybody in the pot and you treat everybody equally. And a comment like that
Which
was
is what
not,
we do, right?
Yeah, but that
Yeah.
comment was really, a little bit awry, I think, and she was angry at his comments.
I think she's probably
That night.
responding to your comment,
Yeah.
Mr. Sullivan.
But she should have been responding to me, not her, and not about that, specifically about that.
Okay.
That's
That
pretty.
is a very racial-led comment.
It is.
Okay.
It's an insightful gaslighting comment. And I would hope that you would address that with all your board members about saying that, something like that to each other. Because I don't think she said anything like that. She hasn't gaslit any of your other board members like that.
I'm not accused her of that, no.
No.
Or no, I don't know that anyone has. I don't know that she has.
You know,
So,
but I'm just bringing it up, thinking
Okay.
maybe you guys could say something, not specifically to her unless you want to, but as just a point of order, point of.
Well, every year, there's an opportunity during board work session for board members to speak their mind in a variety of different ways. And we've got some of those meetings coming up again in November and December. So there'll be opportunity if Taylor wants to share it in the group or if she wants to share it one-on-one. And there will be opportunity for that.
No. But sometimes she doesn't want to because she doesn't want to cause a rift. And that's good. Maybe good in a way, maybe bad in a way because it says to her that she can get away with it. But that's her opinion and that's her choice. I'm just saying simply that it may not be somebody's thing to bring that up in a meeting face to face because they don't want that confrontation. So I can't blame them.
yeah, and I'll just say thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah, for sharing it.
Yeah.
About last night, I won't apologize for it. I still do believe it is my First Amendment right to say what I want in a boardroom, and it's been proven in federal courts. It's case law, like you were citing, multiple ones by federal courts that.
Actually, school board rooms haven't been tested yet.
Yeah, they have.
Not in Colorado. Not in Colorado.
It-
According to
it
let me
doesn't
say
matter.
that differently. According to our outside attorney, she said, they haven't tested public comment yet in the courts here, so we don't really know where
Well,
they're going to land.
I beg to.
But you absolutely
it's-
have a freedom of speech right there at the podium. You absolutely do, and
But let me stop you. Freedom of speech at the podium, you absolutely do. Kind of runs roughshod to how I was treated last night.
well, we also have an obligation to make sure it's appropriate for a K-12 audience.
I've been in schools and I've had kids in schools and I've heard horror stories from other teachers in your district that completely go against what you're saying. I've heard more horrible things from students and teachers that, geez, would make my little piece last night seem like a Sunday day sermon. So I disagree with you.
Well, we don't condone
are
that,
you
right, Mr. Sullivan? I mean,
you don't condone it in the schools, but you don't punish them either because I know I've talked to your teachers. I've talked to many of them.
Well, I need to tell you, if we had a primary teacher speaking that way in the classroom, using the F word in the
A
classroom,
teacher, yes.
with students, we absolutely would
I
address
agree.
it.
It's a teacher. It's a public city
You're
employee.
talking about we don't discipline students.
Students, correct.
Well, we sure do, and I'm not
It can
thinking
be.
we catch them all. I'm not saying we catch them all,
and every teacher has to pick their battles
Yeah.
on what
and
they
many
want to
times
fight.
it's just
So
language.
picking your
It might be
battles
just
means that I may not have one person saying the F word and another person over here saying F your mother or damn or whatever cuss word you put out there. So that brings my question is where's the line then? If you're gonna pick your battles like you just said and say, well, I'm gonna pick my battle because maybe the word wasn't so bad, wasn't so profane, or maybe it wasn't used in the same context. I'm gonna pick my battle. So I would say if you're zero tolerance, like you're claiming the district is, why would you not have every last student out there brought into the office and say, you're just not gonna be able to use that kind of language. but instead you're saying you're gonna pick and choose your battles.
No, I'm not saying I am.
No, but
I'm
you're-
saying that the
you're the-
teachers sometimes do, and
But why? You're the board president, why can't you say, this is a zero tolerance policy, and we don't allow that because that's what you guys preach, zero tolerance policy.
We really don't, Brian.
You
We
don't?
really don't talk zero tolerance, no.
I've heard
And
it
I
and I've
heard-
seen it in
I
writing.
heard that one public participant say that the other night. We really don't talk zero tolerance around student discipline, almost never. I mean, weapons and school threats, that's about it. That's zero
So
tolerance.
they.
And those are state law. I mean, that's
Right,
state
right,
law.
Right,
But really, so I just wanna clarify that I think zero tolerance gets overused, when we talk about behavior of kids and adults. Cause zero tolerance really means zero tolerance.
right.
And that means you're gone. I mean, that's zero tolerance.
Well, zero tolerance depends on what you have as far as what's at the end of that. Is it you're gone? Is it you're suspended? Is it, you
Sure.
leave a lot there
Sure.
to negotiate.
And I see teachers and administrators address profanity all the time.
Okay.
We see it often when we're in schools.
Are they
And
escorted out of the school?
we do not suspend for profanity.
Okay,
No, we do not.
so they're not,
But
I'm
we-
not saying,
But we might, if I had a junior in high school at an elementary school doing that, there would be greater consequences than when they do it here, because what we're protecting in the boardroom is the younger audience. It's the young kids that we're protecting.
So you're saying it'd
in
be
the
okay
boardroom.
here at a high school as
Didn't
opposed
say
to?
that.
Well, what are you saying?
I didn't say that,
Clarify.
I said, we're protecting the younger audience, so when a
Younger
high,
meaning what age? I'm not clear.
little kids,
Little kids
elementary
as
students, elementary
in-
students,
So
absolutely.
you're protecting,
I'm not, when we are talking about,
I'd like
this
clarity,
audience
though.
should be what is said in the boardroom should be appropriate for a K-12 audience. We're thinking all the way down to kindergarten.
but now
And
you're
you're right,
not.
it is a judgment call.
But you're not saying that now, though. You're saying it'd be okay here and you'd act differently
This
if
isn't the
it was.
boardroom, Brian.
I'm not saying it's a boardroom. I'm not saying that at all, okay?
And I don't
I'm-
have kindergartners walking around Northridge High School.
No, that's again, what I'm saying is, it's different here is what you're saying. I
Yes,
just
it
want
is.
clarity. It's different here at a high school.
It sure
If they
is.
would use profanity, correct? As if it would be in a middle school or an elementary school, it would be different? Is that what you're saying? I just want to be clear.
I would need to know the situation. I mean,
And-
this
and
is
that-
not productive.
Profanity.
This
I
is
know,
not
it is
productive.
productive because
What
I
what
want
would really
clarity
help
on
me to
what
understand
you're trying to
is-
describe.
What it would really help me to understand this is, why do you wanna cuss in the boardroom?
Because it's my freedom of speech. It's my First Amendment right.
It is, and why do you wanna do that? Really, why?
Exactly.
Why is
Be-
that important?
Because it's my First Amendment right. That is important.
So
I
just-
don't think
so-
you see that as
No,
the First Amendment right as being
so
important at all.
Just to show that you have that right? Is that why it's important?
No, it's not about showing. It's not about making a point. It's about how I talk, how I perceive things, how I can actually talk freely. It's not about being censored like you guys want me to be. It's about using language, whether or not you or I or her see it as profane. I can see a lot of things as profane. I can, for example, I can see profanity as being the books in the school, but you guys okay a lot of that, okay? But what I want to get across is my interpretation of profanity is that your interpretation is a word.
Okay,
Your
What are words hurt?
interpretation of profanity. Your interpretation of profanity. You said
Is
that.
different.
What is that?
It's different.
Okay.
Profanity is having schools in the books for middle schoolers to read when it's nasty, perverted, sexual deviance. That's profanity to me. But words are just words. That's, in essence, we see each profanity version as different. But I'm told I'm to accept the books and the language and the pictures and the nasty stuff in the books, but you can't accept my my words. But I'm asked to accept your words. How is that fair? I mean, I see my First Amendment right, and all of my amendments, my civic duty is to redress my government. And it's my right. I mean, regardless of whether you think my words are offensive or not,
But we wouldn't have those words are not in books available to elementary students.
I didn't say elementary, I said middle school.
Okay, but I'm just saying they're not. And our boardroom needs to
What-
be an environment that is suitable for kindergarten,
But
elementary.
shouldn't that be suitable also? Is the profanity, sexual descriptions and pictures in books, shouldn't that be acceptable also?
But that's not in our
What?
elementary schools.
I didn't say elementary schools, for the
But
third
we
time,
want our
it's the middle
boardroom
schools.
to be acceptable for
Middle
elementary kids.
Okay, but there wasn't any elementary kids in there at the time. There was high school and probably, I would say, I'm guessing, middle school child. So there was no elementary school in there. So what's the difference? So what's the difference in wordage and stuff I have to read and let my kids, or potentially any kids read?
You don't have to let your kids read that, right? I mean,
No,
it's your
but-
right as a parent.
But you
to-
have it in the school and they can see that. They can read that, is what I'm saying. It's still the First Amendment. In your eyes, it's the First Amendment that you can have that in the schools. It's my First Amendment, in my choice, my view, to use profanity. And granted, I don't think, I think most people, I'll agree with you on, partially on profanity. Yeah, it was profane. But I guess the level of it was probably not as profane as I could have made it, or somebody else could have made it.
Certainly.
But it all boils down to, in the end, is freedom of speech. So where is my freedom of speech different from your freedom of speech?
And I think we've said that, right? That the boardroom needs to be treated, I mean, essentially like you would treat a kindergarten classroom.
Why?
Right, because we want that to be an environment that is safe for people to bring their kindergartners, their elementary students, and oftentimes we do. And we're not going to change the rules for the meeting every time, depending on who's in the audience. Every time we want this to be a safe place to bring an elementary school student. Right?
But there was no elementary school student.
Well, but there
and
could have
that's-
been online.
But that's the rules.
You
We don't know.
That,
That's
that
the
could
rules
have
we
been
created.
also.
We don't know. You're right, we don't know.
You're right.
We don't know who's online.
You're right. But that's their choice. Their choice to tune in. Their choice to come to the board meeting. My choice, my right, lawful right, constitutional right, is to say what I feel necessary. As long as it's not threatening in any way, it's not fighting words in any way. And please look it up, look the Constitution up, look the First Amendment up, look freedom of speech up. You will find that as long as it's not fighting words, as long as it's not a threatening you in any way, then I am allowed. And there's many case laws, federal. I'm not talking about Colorado, because you may be right, okay? But federal, Cohen versus California. There's Tinker versus Des Moines.
That wasn't about profanity.
Yeah, which one?
Tinker versus Des Moines. It's freedom of speech, but it wasn't
It was
profanity.
freedom of speech,
Yeah,
yes,
those
and
are
it
all
doesn't
freedom of
matter.
speech, but they're not
Freedom of speech
profanity.
doesn't matter if it's profanity or not. It's freedom of
What hasn't been tested is
speech.
profanity. That's what's not been tested.
It doesn't
under
matter.
free
It's
speech.
still freedom of speech. And they even said, I forget the justice that said it, said their constitutional rights to freedom of speech or expression doesn't
not
end
left
at the
at the
schoolhouse
schoolhouse door.
gates. Yeah, at
That's
the
right.
gates. And
Yep.
this
That's
couldn't
Tinker versus Des
censor
Moines.
speech unless it was materially or substantially interfered with school operations.
Yeah, do you want, that case was when the kids wore the black armbands to school to protest governmental action, is what that case was.
Mhm.
And it's a landmark case, because
Right.
it showed school districts like, hey, kids have a right to free speech unless it's substantially disruptive, which is what I was talking about earlier when you asked about the Confederate flag.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't show that the black armbands were, so they lost.
But it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't it was freedom of speech.
Sure it
was
is. The
cen-
armband
It
was
wasn't censored.
Yeah, the armband was a form of speech, just as your flag is a form of speech.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And Acosta versus the city of Costa Mesa, court ruled speech is constitutionally protected unless it disrupts the meeting. disruption doesn't mean that you caused the disruption or you caused the disruption. It meant that you caused it. Well, you guys caused the disruption last night. Nobody else in the board or in the seating area had a problem with it that I heard. Nobody stood up. Nobody said anything.
I think people had a problem with it.
They didn't say anything, but they may had a problem with it. Okay, I agree. They may had a problem with me or hearing it. I agree. There are some people that do, and I totally agree. But there's some people who don't, and they don't see that. But what I'm saying is, it didn't cause the disruption, quote unquote.
Okay.
Okay.
But I would still go back to the question: why the need to come in? You recognize some people are going to be offended by that. What's driving the need to come in and say that when you know people are going to be offended by it?
Well,
And there might be children there.
could be, but I didn't see any.
And
But,
there are all kinds of things you can and have said that somebody might find offensive, but they're not profanity, and it's just fine.
But I'll put that question back to you is why you're asking me why should I have said it? That's like saying why have the Fourth Amendment that protects us from search and seizure? Why not get rid of the Second Amendment that protects us from the government or enemies, foreign and domestic? Why have those?
I'm not asking why we have the First Amendment. I'm just saying why come in and say something that you think people are going to be offended by?
I don't care what people think. It's my First Amendment. It's freedom of speech. It's just like, why would you preach about something in your church that some people in your parish or whatever you call it may not agree with? It's because you find it important, correct?
Or I think it is important, or
Right,
it's in the
right.
Bible, right? Okay.
Correct. But some people may disagree with you. But
Yeah,
it's your
right.
right to say it. So I'm throwing it back at you. Why don't we just not
So-
have any speech at all?
Did I hear you correctly? You use profanity because you can.
Correct.
Okay. That's the reason.
Correct.
Okay, I got it. You did it because you
Plain
can.
and simple.
Okay.
It's not because I was proving a point. I want to make that clear. It's not because I was proving a point. It's not because I wanted to make a scene. It's not because I wanted to push the envelope. It was because basically I talk that way. I use cuss words a lot. And I'm not going to change the way I talk, and I wouldn't expect you guys to change the way you talk just to please somebody else. It's your First Amendment right, just as well as it's mine, to say what's on your mind in any way, shape, or form that you see way to do it. I mean, isn't that fair and equitable for everybody? Not equitable because that's not equitable. Well, I forget, but isn't that fair for everybody?
I would not say it's fair for everybody, because
freedom of
you have an
speech.
audience. Well, I mean, maybe you're right, Mr. Sullivan. Now we can set time, place, and manner restrictions on speech, but you're right. I mean, there's nothing I can really do about it, right? You said the word, right?
Right.
I mean, I can't stop you from saying the word. You can come back in 2 weeks and say it again, right? I mean, there's nothing. We're not suspending you, right? Because you.
Well, thank you.
Right.
I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, we can. I mean, that's not the way that it works. But I mean, let's say you're riding in a car with somebody, and they want to play something, or you want to play something, and
Sure.
they find it offensive. Why not simply not play it when they're
Right. I could not choose to play it, but it's my stereo, my car, my time, my freedom of expression, and if I choose to, I can.
But
If I
you're
wanted to-
you're offending them, right? And
Well, what's wrong
don't
with
they
that?
have I mean, you're saying it's your car. In this, and I know every analogy breaks down, right? This boardroom is not your boardroom or my boardroom.
It is. It's
It's
all of
ours, right?
It's the
collectively. So
taxpayers.
some people
Correct.
are offended or going to be offended.
You're right.
And why come in and use language that you know is going to be offensive to them?
but I don't know. Everybody in that room, as far as I know, could not care. How do I know that? I don't know what everybody's thinking. I know if I said that in front of Taylor, she wouldn't think twice about it. Or any of my other
we
friends.
think people might be offended by that, and have set the rules up that way.
You think,
why not
yes.
simply respect the rules that we've set up?
Simply because what's next? Are we going to not allow someone to say darn or shoot or
No, we're not gonna do that.
But that's
not
what
our
I'm
intent.
saying. That's
Yeah.
good to hear.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. But what's next? This is why our government, our forefathers said we are going to put this number one because it's the most important thing is freedom of speech. That's why a lot of the reason they left England is because of that specific thing. That's why it's number one. You can't have the rest of the amendments without the first one. Simply put. I mean, whether I like your speech or you like mine is irrelevant. It's the fact that we can say it. And I'm not by any means saying I'm going to come back and I'm going to say every cuss word I could think of next meeting. Okay? It's not. I have no intention of doing that. My intention is to get my point across and hopefully to have a civil conversation and not be cut off. Whether it's on the phone like you did the previous day or at a board meeting. I'm super glad and thank you for coming to this meeting because I had every thought that you guys would cancel this meeting. So thank you for at least
welcome.
coming to the floor and having a conversation that I think so far. I know you just said it wasn't productive, but I think it is.
Oh, I think the conversation's been productive.
Oh.
I didn't think this thing about debating public, the clapping during the regular meeting or public participation, I don't think that conversation, we're not gonna get anywhere with that one. Because it's two different pieces of the meeting, two different purposes, two different backgrounds behind it. That's what I was referencing. I'm glad we had the opportunity to meet today. I truly am.
Yeah. But
I
will-
told Taylor when she first got elected, I'd love to sit down with you. And she said, oh no way.
Yeah, because it's a 5 against 1 constantly, and I don't blame her.
Well, I'm
If
talking
I was
when
in her
Taylor
position,
very
can I
first
talk to
got
you?
elected.
Can I talk to you? I let
Yeah,
you talk.
sure,
Okay.
absolutely. Sorry.
When she first got elected, she was like, God, don't say anything. She was all over my case. Don't come. Don't do anything.
I shut
And
down.
and
I just shut down. We had issues.
it was hard for me to hear, but yeah, it was 5 against 1. She's very intimidated
In the
by
beginning I was, yeah.
yes. So
But
It wasn't thick-skinned.
we're
So I shut him down, and we had issues. We argued about the First Amendment because I told him, I said, no, I don't want you showing up. I don't want you speaking at the meetings.
Well, when we spoke at Casby, and you said, are you mad at us? Are you mad at my husband? And I said to you, I'm not mad at anybody, and I would welcome to sit down and have a conversation with your husband. And you said to me, oh no way.
No,
But
yeah,
but
right.
I said
wasn't
that to
ready for
you
it then,
the
but-
first year at Casby. I said that to
Yeah.
you, and I meant it. And I would say it again.
I do have to say that honestly, she's and I don't see it, but she does because she's around you guys all the time. Not all the time, but you know what I'm saying. But she has said kind words about every last one of you on that board. And I could disagree with her and
you
Yeah.
have.
well, yeah, yes, you're right.
From day
But-
one.
But I want to say that if you think that she is against you guys, she's more of a level-headed person than I think a lot of us are because she sees the good in everybody, and I do appreciate that about her.
But Taylor, has anybody been intimidating with you
Brenda
on
Campos,
the
Betsy.
board?
That wasn't intimidating, that
Yeah.
it pissed me off.
Yeah.
I'll just put it blunt. And
But I mean, that's not
because
been
I
our
thought-
intent, right? I mean,
yeah.
we have civil working relationships on the board. You are a
Yeah.
minority on
No.
a lot of votes,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
and I'm okay with that,
and I'm okay with that too, right? I mean,
I'm
that's
vocal with it.
that is fine.
No, I don't feel like there's an intimidation factor. There was in the beginning, just because I was thin-skinned. And it's like if I spoke up and misspoke in a board meeting, boom, you know, I was slandered in the newspaper, and that bothered me in the very beginning, and now it just, I don't care, because I'm gonna state my beliefs, and I'm gonna stick to my morals and my values as to what I believe is right and wrong. But no, it's not an intimidation. I mean, there's been some issues, you know, where I've had my mic shut down and I wasn't allowed to speak, but, you know, that, I was frustrated there, and I probably
I don't
should
think we
spoke up
shut
a
your
little
mic
bit
down.
more.
Well, I think you're talking about when we had already ended the meeting, and then Taylor said, I wanna speak, and we had already ended the meeting, and so, we couldn't continue the meeting once we voted or adjourned the meeting, that's when that was, I think, right, Taylor? That night, and we'd already
Yeah,
adjourned it
but I'd
then.
already, technicalities, of
Yeah.
it, that's.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I did not see that you
Yeah.
wanted to speak, Taylor.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
But the meeting was
that's over.
adjourned.
It's over and gone,
Yeah.
I'm past that.
One last thing, I know we're running short on time. When I went out in the hall and spoke to the officers
mhm.
and Corliss, I wasn't appreciating them as much as I should have when I first went out. But after talking to them, they are good people. But they honestly saw my side of things, and the fear in Mr. Corliss's eyes and his actions, his body language, spoke volumes of. Because I wanted to go back in and view the meeting. Would you guys have had any problem with that? Yes or no?
You could have come back in the meeting.
Okay, thank you. But he had huge reservations
Okay.
as to whether he should let me. I mean, I have it on video.
Yeah, and, you know,
that-
in fairness to Wade, we had not had any previous conversation with him, you know, about the conversation you and I had had on the phone, or about the conversation with Michael. I mean, he didn't know any of that, and so he was caught off guard by the whole thing. So I think
Sure,
I think
everybody
he
was.
wasn't sure. I think he probably, you know, he's been, this is his first full year as chief, as being in charge of security. So I think we need to give him some grace around. I mean, I'm certainly giving him some grace around a new situation for him, because he's only one. You know, he's been the director, not the one in charge in the past,
Right.
until this year.
Right.
So
But I'm saying the intimidation factor that I got from him, as far as, man, if I let you, and I won't repeat the words he said, or because I'm not going to get him in trouble, but his intimidation factor with you guys, in my view, I'll say, in my view, because this is just my observation, is from what he said and his body language, he was so intimidated by you guys, by allowing me to go back in that meeting, because we argued about that. Didn't argue, we spoke about it. And
I don't think
both,
he knew what to do. He did text me. I didn't see the text until the meeting was over. He texted me and said, you know, Mr. Sullivan wants to come back in, but I did not see the text. That is the truth, until the meeting was
okay.
over.
That's fine.
And he said, he said he texted me, and then the meeting adjourned right then. He thought.
He thought, yeah.
Yeah.
But he knew what to do. He was a former police officer. He knew the rights. He knew his rights. He knew my rights. He knew, and the other officers were telling him, that's what you should do. Sitting there shaking their head, yes. And I even asked both the officers, will you arrest me if I go back in the back in the meeting? And they said, no, we can't. And but he was so afraid, so intimidated. I'll use the word intimidated because that's my description of it, is that for some reason he, my opinion, thought his job would be on the line. And in my opinion, that's not a good thing to have when you're the head of security, is to know the law, but yet, is my job gonna be on the line? And again, my opinion, whether you have you have a meeting with him or not, and he says otherwise, so be it. That's my take on it. So, but the other officers, the law enforcement officers, and he is too, but they they knew I was okay to do that. They knew that I had the right to go back in. They knew I had the right to say what I said.
Did he tell you could not come back in?
Yes. He told me that I will not allow you back in. You're putting me in a tough spot. To me, that makes me feel like, pardon the expression, but you're tyrants. That you are holding some aspect of his job over his head, that if he did a mistake like that and let me back in without your approval, that maybe his job would be in the line. And again, this is my opinion. Okay? Had nothing to do with what he said. That's what I got from it.
And you're entitled to your opinion, right?
Right. Thank you.
As we've said many times in this conversation, and I don't think it's accurate.
You're more entitled, yes.
I mean, I don't, one, as Taylor well knows, there are only 3 people that are accountable in any way to us as board members, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Pilch, attorney, who, when I say accountable, I wouldn't even say they're necessarily accountable to us. We don't hire them. But Nate Fall, he works for us.
The
right?
attorney.
He's the attorney for the board, and Miss Amy Lemon. Right? Those are the only people that we can really have conversations with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody else reports to Dr. Pilch. Mm-hmm. So I'm not intimidating.
Well,
right.
That's my
And I've
my take
known
on it.
Dr. Pilch for 7 years now, and I know she's not intimidating. So I'm just telling you.
I don't know either one of you,
Okay.
so you may be right.
Okay.
Yeah. So, my last thing, I know you guys got to get going. What is going to constitute if I come in there and use any kind of language? I mean, I'm not saying that I'm gonna go in and use the F word again, okay? But what words is going to get you to say, Mr. Sullivan,
You're out of order.
you're out of order? Yes, sir. What words specifically am I going to get that and get possibly 5 officers around me and escort me out?
Well, you're not escorted out because of the words you said. Let's be clear about that.
Well,
You're escorted away from the podium because you refused to leave the podium. Your time had expired, and you still wanted to stand there and be disruptive of the meeting. Right?
No, I wanted my time reinstated because you interrupted me about a
Well,
minute or so.
I can't interrupt
in.
you. Right?
You did.
I can with
Yes.
you're out of order. Right? I mean, you can
But that's
say
what I'm asking you is
what
when-
are the
when-
what are the words?
What are the words? But then again, you said
What are the words you would like to say?
You've used profanity. Well, that's a different story.
Right, I mean,
but you said.
Or what are the words you think you're going to say?
Well,
Right? I mean, that's a judgment call in the.
I mean, in TV or radio, they can say damn, they can say bitch, they can say, I don't know. There's like 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 things that they can say, but they can't legally say. The FCC says you can't say the F word. You can't say, I don't know what else, but I know it's the F word they can't say.
There's more.
Okay?
If I asked you not to say damn, would you respect that?
Damn?
Yeah.
Well, no. I wouldn't respect anything that limits my freedom of speech. But I will say, if to be in the boardroom and to be to get my point across without totally negating my First Amendment rights, I'll leave the F word out. I mean, if they can say it on TV and they can say it at the school, why can't I say damn or bitch or whatever? I mean,
Well, here's the thing is, I can't stop you from saying any words, right? You
so
can
if I
come
went to the
in-
board meeting and said damn, I mean, I've used every
But
explanation.
I'm asking you because we're talking about it.
Right.
Why, if I'm asking you, let's not say damn. Would you respect that?
In a
Let's
board
not say
meeting?
bitch in a board meeting, and let's respect that. Would you be willing to do that?
To not say damn?
Yeah.
No, because I don't.
And if you
find
slipped
it
up and
offensive.
said it, I wouldn't call you out of order. But if I knew, if you could agree, it's like, you know what, I'm not going to say that.
I will. I'll tell you this. On my word, I will very much try and not say a curse word. But if it does come out in the heat of my whatever, I would expect the same from you.
Okay.
You
We
know,
can-
I'm not going to go lace my 2-minute speech with every curse word out there. Okay? And I didn't. Those were, I think, the only three that I had in my whole thing. The rest of it,
You did have it written out, right?
I did, yes. Yeah, on my phone.
So I
yeah.
mean, you could write it out and not include
I
damn,
could,
right?
yeah. But that's what I'm saying.
And that's
in
what
the
I'm
heat
asking.
of my
I mean, it really
thing,
is just an ask, right?
You could ask, yeah.
Right, of asking you not to say damn and not to say bitch and
Yeah.
not to say the F word or any of these other words.
Yeah, anybody can ask me, yeah. But I'm just saying, I'll do my best.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't
But-
write them in your speech, and if you slip up and say one, I won't call you out of order.
Okay.
Um,
Fair enough. Yeah, I agree.
And here's the other thing about just Robert's Rules of Order and this whole calling out of order. It's as simple as Michael saying, "Mr. Sullivan, you're out of order," and you continuing with your speech, and you get to say what you want to say. You don't need to argue back with him, because then that's going to cause more. You're out of order, and that wasted your time.
You're right, it wasted my time, so why
Yeah.
can't I, okay, if I'm out of order and he says, "Mr. Sullivan, you're out of order," and I say, "Okay, Mr. Matthews, thank you," which I don't know if I will or not, but, and I say that, why can I not have that time back? That's what I was asking at the podium. Why can I restore my time?
But that, I mean, you argued. You did not say, "Okay, Mr. Matthews." And
No.
I'm not asking you to say, "Okay."
I didn't
Mr.
say it
Matthews.
nicely, no, but I did say.
But I'm just going to say you're out of order, and you
Mhm.
can keep on going.
Yeah, but you're still interrupting my train of thought, so I'm losing in me personally.
Don't say
I'm
damn.
He
Don't
just
say
said I
damn.
could,
and he won't have to
I'm
I'm
say
not
you're out
saying
of order.
you can't. I'm
You
just
won't
saying
have to say you're out of order.
if you will, in a gentleman's agreement, say I will. I'm not going to put damn, and I'm not going to put shit, and all the other words
Mhm.
in my speech. I will say I won't. If you slip up and you get off script, say and say damn.
But how are you going to know that, though?
I'm not going to know that. I'm just going to trust if you tell me that you're telling me
Right.
the truth.
Uh-huh. And I will tell you the truth.
Okay.
I'm as a gentleman's agreement, yes.
Okay.
I will.
You tell me
Try
you're
and-
not intentionally going to come in and say damn. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
if you slip up, I won't call you out of order for damn. Now, there are words I will call you out of order for, right? I mean,
Those being.
The F word.
the F word.
Yeah.
Right? And there are a few other words like that. But there, I mean, I do appreciate your point, right? That is different. But I'm asking you for the sake of the audience to not say damn, to not say hell, to not say bitch. Okay.
I'll try.
Okay.
Yes. But if I'm still saying it's my First Amendment right, but I will try as just an order of trying to get along.
Okay.
So, I honestly, I don't have a problem with you doing your freedom of speech, anybody, and I just want that in return.
Okay.
I mean, I think fair is fair. So, yeah.
Taylor, you haven't said much.
Mhm.
Is there anything you'd like to
His
share?
meeting. No, this is his meeting. I'm coming more for moral support. I mean, yeah, I didn't like the text messages, but I understand that you addressed them because it is a letter that came to the board. I respect that, and I had no problem with it being shared with the board because it was addressed with the board and whatnot. But no, this was his beef that he wanted to bring to the table. So I'm here more of as his wife and a school board member on this one to support him.
Taylor, can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
Why not just when I said, Taylor, can you just call me? Why not just call me?
Because the last time you did that, you crushed my freedom of speech when you told me I had to take something off of Facebook. And it had nothing to do with our school district the last time. And so.
And that's, refresh my memory,
That
just
was
so I make
when-
sure, I think I know which one you're talking about, but
It was
About the snow day.
mutual friend on the snow day, yes.
On the snow
And I
day.
just said, we're
okay.
not raising strong.
I don't know if you'll believe this. When I tell you that, like, I didn't say I said, please take this down and let's talk tomorrow, right? About it tomorrow. Because it was late at night. We'd both been, that was the night of a Greeley Central, Greeley West.
Yeah, I remember
And I'm
that.
not trying to crush
Yeah.
your freedom of speech. I really
But-
am trying to help you in that situation because you'd already, had some struggles on Facebook, right? Remember those?
Yeah, those weren't my struggles, those were.
Well, it was your
I
account,
struggled.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
it was your account. I had
Yeah,
to.
but there's, I should be able to be a person that
Okay.
outside of the school board.
Right.
And so you have the separation of your church, your family, and your school
I know.
board. So allow me the same.
And-
Allow me to have the separation
It's
and
not that you
not
couldn't though.
cross over. When you're telling me that I needed to take that post down when it had nothing to do.
It was
with our
my
district.
decision. It
But
did. It was
but
my
it was
decision.
nothing to do with our district.
I called the snow day, Taylor.
And that was fine, but this comment was to another parent in another district, and I just said, we're not raising strong kids. I might have said it in a different word, but.
Yeah, it was something to that effect. That,
But we're not raising strong kids because of but it was to her, and it had nothing to do with our district. It was a different district, so I don't even understand why it even got brought to the plate.
It was a
Because
private
again,
conversation, it wasn't a school board conversation, regardless of whether
Well,
you called it or not.
The hard thing is this, as board members, you just can't ever take your hat off as a board member. And so,
Sure you can.
no, you really can't.
She
I mean,
doesn't.
the public doesn't perceive that you can take your hat off. And so when the public sees that, they see board member Taylor Sullivan questioning her superintendent's
Guy had
decision.
Donation.
Hmm?
The guy had donation.
But Taylor, whatever you
Sure.
believe, and you can believe this or not, I was trying to help you, in that. I wasn't trying to squash your freedom of speech. Of course, you can put that up if you
Well,
want
you're
to.
telling me to take it down, that is.
But I'm telling you to take it down because I think it's going to be helpful to you to take it down. Because I don't want you embroiled in a conflict with teachers in the district on Facebook. Right? Taylor, it's me giving you wisdom as a senior board member and saying, please take that down because this is nothing good is going to come of this, right? To complain about, and I know it was another district, but it was the exact same decision that our superintendent had made.
But you just said it as a board member, as a president, not as a personal, not as a private citizen.
No, I was trying to help her as a board member to board member, but I really was trying to help you. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I wasn't trying to squash your First Amendment rights. And again, you can believe that or not.
Well, I would never tell you what you could or could not post and what you can or cannot say. And so I would expect the same grace on that because you're entitled to your opinions and you're entitled to your free speech, your thoughts, the way you raise your kids, the way you conduct yourself in public. So then
I'm sure
allow
you,
me that, and then if I have retributions, then it's on me to deal with those.
so Taylor,
Well, but it ends up on me too, right? Right? It ends up being my time, and when that happened the first time, right? This is the first conversation we ever had before you were ever installed as a board member, right? We had a conversation about the Facebook post that I think it was Sherry, right? That put that on there, but created.
Yeah, that was a
Creative-
disaster.
Uh-oh,
I was
principal's gonna throw us out.
Whenever you guys want, we're upstairs in the library.
Oh, right, we
Thanks,
got
sir.
another meeting. That's why we're here. Sorry, I forgot about it. But again, and I was trying to help you. It might not have been helpful. You might not believe I was trying to help you, but in my mind, I was trying to help you.
and this, right or wrong, the board president's role is to help new board members. and to help new board members navigate being a board member. I mean, that is the board president's role. Or a mentor's role, if, when we assign a mentor to a new board member. And so I also think neither of us wanted Miss Martin to come to a board meeting and call you out for that flag. We didn't want that. We don't want that.
Where was the concern
For you.
for us?
No, for Taylor, I did not want that to happen. Not me. That's not going to make me. It's not my yard. But for Taylor, I didn't want Miss Martin to come in there and read that letter. For Taylor, I didn't want that to happen. And so that's why it was necessary for Michael to follow up with her and say, I've talked to Miss Sullivan. It's whatever you said. It's her husband's flag, and they have the right to fly it. And this, this isn't a district issue. So whether you believe that or not, I mean, we have an agreement to try to not embarrass each other in the boardroom between board members and between superintendent and board. We have that. We do have that agreement. I think. Don't you think that?
Yeah.
And so that, I mean, I think.
Yeah, you don't lay each other out on the chopping block.
Right.
That's
And we don't do
disrespectful.
that, right?
No.
I mean, not only should we not, we don't do that.
Except for Brenda Campos Spitzy when she said that to her.
She didn't do that publicly, and I can't answer
It
for
was still
Brenda
a
Campos
private.
Spitzy. I'm not defending
It was-
it. I'm just saying that was not public.
No, it wasn't public,
and
but it
that's
was still
private
board members.
conversation. And so,
It was still conduct of a board member that really isn't unbecoming of a board member.
yeah, again, I'm not going to condemn or condone or defend her. I mean, it's just not. I don't know the other side of the story. I don't know exactly what she said, so it's not relevant to our discussion. I'm just telling you, both then and the other night, right? In both of those times, I wasn't trying to hurt you. I wasn't trying to squash your rights. I'm trying to tell you what I think is going to be helpful for you.
I get it. I understand that.
Okay. And I do that with every board member, including Brenda Campos Spitzy.
I don't
Several
think she
times.
listened to you.
Well, sometimes people listen, sometimes they don't. But I do that with that's part of my job, right? And I do that. I have done that probably with pretty much everybody but Doran Azari, because he's newer and he is especially careful. He calls every time before he does anything, but that is my job, and I've done it. Well, I was going to say all those people last night, so we had the former board last night, and former board members and current board members, and Terry Pappas would do it with me,
When she,
right? She
she
would,
was vice president.
and you know she would. Right. So I really am trying. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to help you in those instances. It might not be helpful. Again, I could be wrong. You might not believe it's helpful, but that is my intent.
Okay. I'd like to see a lot more interaction in between, not just me, but if somebody had more. And I've heard, like, requesting a meeting. I'd like to see more of that, hear more of it, because I haven't really heard too much of when somebody has a problem or brings up an issue with the school board. I haven't heard much of somebody, like you said, getting back to them, like you say you do.
I do, and we have met with pretty much anybody that wanted to meet.
Yeah, anybody that will meet with us.
Most of the people who
And really-
wanted to
really-
meet,
and
who've
the
been in our
reason-
boardroom to be critical.
And I didn't reach out to you, Brian, after Taylor was elected, because she said no. That she didn't
that's
think
fine.
that'd be productive.
I'm-
So,
I'm just
I
saying,
want you to know
I've
that.
heard
Yeah,
differently.
yeah.
and Taylor knows this. Taylor sat in some of those meetings with me early on. Some of those meetings.
Yeah.
But we've met we do typically, there's some people we won't meet with. We don't meet with David Meek. Years ago, I met with David Meek. When I first came to the district, I met with him, but we don't meet with him about, when he comes to the podium, we don't, just frankly, we don't follow up. But with most folks, we do follow up.
That was actually a request I put in, is that we have a follow-up.
That they know, that the board knows what the follow-up is.
Yeah,
So we
now
put that in e week after we've had a public speaker, so,
they'll put in there if they followed up with the person and what the end result was. They asked for that about 6 months ago, I think it was. It was
Mhm.
towards the end of last year.
Well, it was
But I didn't
before,
like-
what I was referring to was before when they were challenging books and a lot of the Republican ladies were up there. They had expressed multiple times that nobody was getting back to them. That's what I was talking, I wasn't talking about the last 6 months, and that's great in the last 6 months, but
And
hopefully it's changed.
they can say that, but I mean, the truth is we did respond. I mean, and you saw those responses via email, and people who wanted to meet were met with.
many folks canceled meetings or refused to meet. And I don't just attempt once. I mean, I truly, and there is an individual who had access to my cell phone, and I was very open to hearing from that individual and very willing, and then that individual went too far and texted me incessantly on the weekend, one weekend, all times of the day, and I just said, you can't contact me that way any longer, you'll have to go through Amy, and that shut down that communication. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I felt like I needed to put a boundary up.
And I would say we won't continuously meet with,
Yeah.
with people. I mean, if there's something we can't resolve, right? I mean, it becomes unproductive at a point. And there are people.
Yep.
I mean, I've specifically told them. I mean, too, it's like I'm not going to respond to any more emails because it's just not productive and it's not worth the time to do that. So.
Anything else?
No? You guys have anything else?
No,
I don't think I do.
we probably got to go.
Yeah, we should get upstairs.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for coming in.
All right,
Both of
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good rest of your evening.
You too, Taylor.
Thank you. You bet.
See you guys. Thank you.